Hey guys, welcome back. It's Alfred here. I'm back with Sam and Sean again. This time around, we're going to answer a few questions. So on my Instagram, I'll ask you guys to kind of ask any questions you want answering, and also we've added some questions as well, which we feel like you guys will benefit from. So we'll take it away and we'll get started. Actually, you guys want to introduce yourself just in case anybody doesn't know who you are. So Sean, you go first. Introduce yourself, and then.
Hey, I'm Sean from Derby. I've got a few HMOs in Derby. I'm an accountant as well. I've also started doing my own YouTube as well. The link will be down in the description. So.
Yeah, I'm Sam. I'm from Derby. I'm 31 years old. I've got a mixed portfolio of HMOs, SAs, buy-to-lets, commercial conversion, and recently just purchased a hotel which is going to be demolished and building 74 apartments. So that's a little bit about me, property.
Cool. All right, so we'll get straight into it. We've got a question here from Mac, entrepreneur. So I think it says something different, but I'm going to say that. What's the biggest challenge in being a full-time property investor? Who wants to take this one first?
Sure. You want to go?
I wouldn't even consider myself a full-time property investor.
What would you call it? So tell the guys, what would you call it?
I think the main thing is it's just leveraging your time, making sure you've got your team behind you. We always focus around your letting agent, your build team, architects, surveyors, solicitors, brokers being your focal team. And if they are in check, they know who you are, they're familiar with your portfolio and how you operate, then they tend to do the majority of the work. Mr. Sam is always the best at leveraging with other build trades, so he's got a better experience than me.
For me, I would probably say my biggest challenge will probably be around, I think it has to come down to the deals that I'm doing and having funds to keep the pipeline full as well. So managing the current works you're going through and then trying to top up the pipeline and raising finance. I think that's my biggest challenge. I think it doesn't get easier. I think it's just always, people think like if you raise money before, you've raised it loads of times, surely it gets easier. I wouldn't say it gets easier. I think it's, I don't know what the word is. It's, I guess you've been there, done it before, so the confidence is there, I guess. But I wouldn't say it's easier.
I think the key thing is you've got to treat it like a business, really. You start off wearing the cleaner's hat and the CEO hat, and then you've got to build the business to a point where it's self-sufficient, it funds itself, and you can bring people on board to pay for the things that you would have been doing from the very start. So you can choose to be the cleaner every time and the gardener, but if for the sake of like, you've got to put a cost on your money and on your time, actually, not your money.
So quick question then: what do you spend your time on in your business? Would you actually get involved in? Would you say?
So right now, I'm just working on automating and training new staff. The ultimate goal is, if I weren't here today and I was on the other side of the country, can the business operate by itself? And if I can walk away for like 6 months and come back and it's still be operating even better than it is, then I call that a business.
No, good.
Yeah. For me, that's a very similar sort of thing. What I'm talking about with Sean is full-time property investor. Yes, that's what I am. But you're talking about keeping the pipeline full. Yes, that's constant. That's what I focus on most of the time, is keeping the pipeline full.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that is you can spend so much time concentrating on your portfolio that you're actually forgetting to have time for yourself. And I think the whole reason we become full-time property investors is to have time for yourself. No, let's be honest, nobody wants to say, I'm a full-time property investor, but just work 24/7 in your business.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that, yeah. You didn't come in there in the first place with that intention.
You don't want to be the richest person in the graveyard, let's be honest. So it's trying to find the balance of time and like personal and business. And Sean hit the nail on the head with regards to trying to systemize the business, make it as automated as much as possible, and getting everything in place. Sean touched on it. I like leveraging a lot of people and a lot of other people's skill sets. So prime example is when you go buy a house. You can't buy a house without other people's help. You need an architect, you need a solicitor, you need a broker, you need all these people. So you hire the correct skill sets, and it's the exact same when you're building and renovating a house. You need a decent builder, you need decent people in place to be able to get a project from start to finish to refinance. Yeah. I don't manage my properties myself because I've got so many. I get the letting agents, so you always get a decent team all the way through the project, and you got to be able to walk away from business to enjoy the time at the same time, as well as it helping it grow. So the systems is key.
I think on the last video we did, he was talking about that smoke alarm that went off at like 7
7
a.m. 7 a.m.
And he called you like
sleeping like a baby. He did not call me. That's worth the 10% or 12%, whatever you pay. It's worth the wait.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. All right. So next question we've got is from someone called Chani. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. When you refinance a property, do you look into your earnings to see if you can afford to do it? I'm trying to make sense of this question. So
I suppose it's the affordability into on mortgages. So big difference for when you're doing it professionally is you buy the businesses in the company. So the property itself is then the company-based income. That's what we're talking about. And so it's
I think that's what
mortgage affordability. So you exit on a bridge. I think that's what they're getting at.
Yeah, so it's more based on the income that the asset produces, and can that pay the interest rates being requested by the lender, basically. And if they can see that, then that's fine. Obviously, ideally, when you go for a refinance as well, what we want to do is have the property rented and have the refinance. Because if not, they might throw the question of, well, okay, it's not rented. We don't know when next it's going to be rented. So how are you going to afford to pay the monthly interest? So I think some lenders out there, I think I've experienced recently where they took 3 months up front when I was doing the refinance to cover the first 3 months, so they kind of protect themselves, which gives me 3 months to let the property out. Obviously, I don't have it empty for 3 months. It's a lot of money. So we're obviously going to try and get it forward as quickly as possible. But to answer the question, I think, the affordability is more based on the asset and it being able to pay the mortgage. Anything to add? I think that's not.
That's interesting. I've never done it that way before, like on a refinance.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I think this is the only lender that's first done this to me. I was like, because when the refinance statement came in, I was like, what's all this? Because they start minusing the numbers, and I noticed this number. I was like, what's this money for? And it's like, it's to cover the first 3 months. Which for me, I'm like, okay, that makes sense as well. Yeah. I never saw the money. I ain't gonna worry about it being paying the mortgage.
I guess the only different I always get them rented before I go for a refinance. So
even I had 4 rooms, had ASTs, but they still took the 3 months. Which for me, it was about $5,000 for the 3 months, which is just under $5,000. So for me, it's like, it is what it is. I'm gonna make it back through the rent. I ain't gonna pay no mortgages. So it's just they're taking the money up front to de-risk it for themselves, I guess.
I think the only experience I've got is when whether you've had this or Sean, is when you take out your internet provider. So
take 3 months
new experience. I've got about 6 projects. Stop saying it's new. I'm not new. It's just because it's a new house. So that's the only thing I've had where they're taking 3 months up front. But it's always checking your affordability on the back end. But one thing is always have a word with the accountant to make sure you can do it in the business. It's always tax efficient to do it in the business nowadays. That's what I'd recommend anyway.
Okay, the next questions are, I guess, questions to come up with, but so 2021 or 2020-21, it's been a challenging year in terms of COVID. So I think a question that I want to pose to you guys as well is, like, what's been the biggest challenge so far this 2021? We're now in May. What's been the most challenging thing you've had to overcome this 2021?
I think the best. I think for me is I've had a change of builders, purely a business decision because one job has been slowing up. Actually, 2 jobs are slowing up, and when I decided to move one job away, the other job ended up being we don't want to do it anymore. So about the same time last year when COVID hit was when the building went bust. So I've seen it from both angles, and I think the changeover, because I went through last year's problem and found a solution, which was find a new builder, and I went through the whole process then. I was a lot more confident this year with what I had to do, what stage had to be done, and generally it's a smoother process once you've gone through those challenges. I've not had to buy any properties this year. I think Sam's got more interest. I have heard the market's like really hard. Things are going overpriced.
It is. It really is. I think for me, definitely eye-opener this year is having multiple projects going on and trying to find new deals and kind of keeping the pipeline full. It's cash flow and like money management. So there's just like so many there's outgoings. You got to make payments to builders weekly, or in my case, I do anyways. And I'm still trying to get new deals into the pipeline in terms of going through planning, paying architect fees, getting the searches going. So it's just having a very good understanding of what's coming in when, and if there's any investors as well I'm paying out as well. That's all within the mix. So it's like, I think it's very important to kind of have the money management. I don't know you guys, but just to have an overview. If you're not accountant, I guess you're on top of it either way. But I think that's been an eye opener for me. And then maybe in terms of the refurb, maybe costs, like extra costs. But we'll go into that later on. Yeah.
I think the biggest one for me with the whole pandemic is obviously it's the 2 meter rule and the sharing and everything like that. So doing a lot of the shared accommodation is people. Well, I used to have it before where there's one bathroom between 2 or 3 people, and now in the middle of the pandemic they've become the hardest rooms to let. So adapting the rooms to become like as many all en suites. Ideally, if you can, the studios. Obviously, the studios come at an extra cost. Well, we'll touch on the refurbs on a different question, but the studios are definitely the way to go if possible during the whole pandemic. That's where I'm looking at a property now, and my target, my first thing that I go to is go for the studios. Then the backup is en suites. And I'll be honest with you, the way with the whole pandemic's hit, I'd potentially walk away from a project if it's got shared bathrooms. The rooms are really, really hard to fill. Again, we'll touch on the rents later, but they're the rooms that are achieving the cheapest rent, but then you've also got to touch on the base of the clientele. So yeah, that for me is the studios just seem to be the way forward.
Okay, that leads us perfectly to the next question. So this question here, so what were your thoughts on lowering the rents to fill rooms? So in the case where you're
so I'll go for it.
What's your thoughts on that?
I've had experiences where I've lowered rents and it's gone well. I've had experiences where I've actually mixed DSS, so people who are on universal credit, into a house. And believe it or not, people say don't do that. Believe it, the universal credit guy actually is the one who's paid up regular, whereas the other people haven't. And it's been a very diverse market, and for me, there's no set rule of don't lower the rents because of this. It's a business. Sometimes you take the risk of having it. I don't deal with my tenants, but every day's a school day. You're learning one of the guy who had a room, he's been paying $550 a room for an ensuite room. He's been paying religiously for the first 9 months. All of a sudden, stopped paying and then went really quiet. Turns out he lost his job during the pandemic and then done a runner. So he owed money, but he was the guy who paying one of the top rents and been straight up. So you can't judge a book by a cover. You can't just say no universal credit, no don't lower the room because clientele. But that's my experience. I know. We were having the conversation earlier.
I think for me, I guess ideally the reason why. So first of all, I'm trying to achieve higher rents in terms of the product I put out there. You guys have seen it. I am on the top of the market, so I'm trying to keep the prices there. I feel like people that can afford it, the rooms that get let out at the higher prices, when you start lowering the rents, you potentially might bring in a different type of demographic of people, and therefore the mix in the house might not be good, and then the people who are paying higher rent might not want to live in the house any longer. So I always try as hard as possible to try and keep the rents where they are, maybe 5% drop to kind of just entice a bit more, or lower the deposits. So I've lowered deposits in the past. So it normally is like I'll normally put a deposit of a month of the room rent. So I've done that as low as half of that number. I've never gone to zero. I can't let anybody in the property without some sort of deposit. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but
I've got to admit, I completely agree on that. The minute you say lower the deposit, and I'm like, why don't they have, say, £200, £400, £600 a month in their bank to be able to pay for that upfront? Then you kind of realise that they've got financial issues. And is that a plan, or is that a projection of what they're going to have in the
exactly?
property?
And I think it's basically like a tick box exercise. If they can do that, then your hope, well, nothing's guaranteed. Like you said, they were good all the way up to that point, and things happen. So, but increases your chances of having good tenants. I think, in my opinion. I don't know about you, Sean. Anything different?
For me, I guess mine's more of a business strategy where if I up the volume of rooms I have in one area, I can actually lower my rent slightly if I needed to.
Economy of scale.
So
I like that.
My target was to get to 200 rooms in the next 2 years, and reason being is I can control my own market in a way.
Yeah, good market.
On top of that, I've also got my own management agent as well in-house, so we've got a more duty of care for our tenants, and also if there's anything that needs fixing. If we literally get direct touch with any issues in our houses with WhatsApp groups and whatnot. Yeah. And I'm in competition myself then. Any viewings that come in, it's our viewings, it's not for someone else. And I find it works better for me as a business.
No, good. I guess when you get to that kind of scale as well, it makes sense to kind of try and create a business around that as well. And then it's all in-house and it's all managed by your team.
And I mentioned about the groups as well. Like when groups of students come in, you give them one set rent for the month, and then they decide what monthly rent they want to pay per room. They choose which room they want to go for, because everyone has different budgets. So where you can, then fill them with groups of students or nurses.
Cool. And then this other question. So 2021 or 2022, 2020 as well. How are you guys currently sourcing deals in the market? Obviously, it's been challenging. A lot of properties going up some ridiculous prices. Everybody is in the market to buy. I don't know. I personally, so I'll probably start with this one first. 2020, I was getting projects through agents. All my projects came through Rightmove, Zoopla, doing viewings. 2021, I haven't got a single one through an agent. It's all been direct to vendor. One's been like a leaflet drop through the door, like a targeted one, and then the other one was through Facebook Marketplace. And that's been it. And there's potential another one as well through a landlord who's looking at selling, but that's in the conversation. But it's all been direct to vendor basically this year for me. I've done nothing on the market whatsoever.
So me this year, I think I picked up 6 projects already this year. One has been through a sourced agent, so that's that one. 2 of them have actually come from LinkedIn, from direct to vendor.
LinkedIn? That's LinkedIn. A new one, guys. There you go, a new one.
So yeah, they one of them I approached them, another one they approached me. So this was kind of a cool. Like when I was away on holiday, somebody messaged me about saying, "Would you be interested in my property?" And I was like, tell me more. So obviously I was like Derby entrepreneur, property investor. And they were like, would you be interested in having a look and seeing what you could do with this? So actually that's going to become my 6th bed. It's the former dental practice. But predominantly what I've been busy on the auctions. However, the auctions have gone a bit crazy this year. I'll admit I've paid over the odds on 2 of my properties, but the numbers will still stack across the portfolio. And we work on the money in, money out business of trying to recycle as much as possible. But yeah, that's where I've been targeting the auctions this year. But Rightmove has been crazy that every properties are selling over the odds, and I'm like, me and Cheung used to joke one of the local agents will put on a property that needs work, and we always used to say, well, that's how much it's going to be worth, because they've even advertised it. Like, they give you no room for a markup. I'm like, that's not a business model. You're buying it at the done-up value and it needs work, so it doesn't stack.
Crazy. Anything for you, your side?
I normally go shop around September time. My analogy is around Christmas time, people don't really buy properties. So by the time the sales go through around December time, that's when I start shopping. And a lot of sales fall through during that time as well. That's what I've noticed.
Interesting. That's how you.
I'm quiet towards the front of the year because I'm actually completing on the properties that I sourced in September time.
Nice.
And building them throughout. By the time the bill finishes, you refinance it before the end of the year.
No, good. Okay, so we've got another one. So build costs again. It's all surrounding 2021, but it is the year we're in. Costs of builds. House. There you go.
Honestly, it's crazy. So we are in like a global pandemic. Yeah, all of a sudden, the building trade is the business to be in. So something's cracked off where 2 years ago, before there was a pandemic, people could get hold of builders, you can get projects done. Now there is a pandemic. Materials and everything's cost has jumped up 20% on average, I'd say. And then also, nobody's free. There's literally a wait list on builders to start projects. It's unreal. I don't understand how the pandemic's just emphasised that one business to just fly off the market.
I don't know as well, but yeah, I'm experiencing build costs definitely going up. I think we were saying before as well, like studios, 12 to 15 grand. Now we're saying 16, 18 grand.
Sometimes up to 20 grand. It's nuts.
For a studio room, and obviously I guess it will lead on to a question later on, but I'm just thinking, how does it kind of affect? Because it's like a moving market. Do you know what I mean?
You've got to buy at the right price. Like, because these costs have gone up, and you've got to buy lower than.
Okay, so let's say
in the sporting market.
Exactly. Let's say you bought the deal, or you got the deal agreed at a price based on what you thought the costs were going to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID happens. Now things are sharp.
I think.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
that's what you have to absorb. That's what you got to renegotiate.
You already bought the house, mate. Yeah. You already bought the house. The house is yours.
You're going to cut the costs, basically.
But I guess
you've
also got to take into account the market shot up as well. So the market shot up.
So there's an element of prices. Price.
So I'm thinking like I'm kind of hoping that the back end valuations are all going to start lining up accordingly, because you've also got purchase price going up, refurb going up, and then back end numbers are still down here. So
you're hoping, by the end of the time, it's going to shift up a little bit. Yeah.
The business will be start drying up.
So to be fair, on my 8-bed, I had a 10k increase in valuation from what we had on the pre-val to what we got on the end. So again, it could do with the finish, the market. There was a movement in the market a bit. The rents achieved higher rents than what we anticipated as well at the beginning. So it kind of helped build the case of it having a higher valuation. But which kind of leads on to the next question: how do you control your end valuation? So.
Can you control your own?
My cousin's a surveyor.
Name below.
Yeah, this is. We can't. Okay.
You can't control.
You can't control it. No.
You can.
You can. No.
You can't control it. You can influence it.
That's still control.
No, it's not control because that's their decision. You can't tell somebody that will have to do it.
Okay.
That's their thing.
I just had a conversation today because I just had 2 valuations come back.
Yeah.
One at 300, one at 470, and then he said like, I had to put it through review. So at the end of the day, 2 surveyors sign off the paperwork. It's not just one person. So you can't really influence it unless you speak to both of them.
Yeah. Well, you can in a sense by influence. I know you might influence in terms of providing the bits that kind of get you the number you want.
Yeah.
And i.e. the AST's been signed or the higher rents or whatever. Potentially to finish as well, wowing them when they come in.
I went on a seminar, webinar, and then they were just talking about just help the surveyor as much as you can, really.
Yeah.
Not really kind of telling them how to do a job, but just do what they would normally do in a report anyways, like work out the gross and the net yields with the rent and the property values that were sold nearby. Send over all your certs anyways. I think the cost of refurbishment is the main one, because if you can't prove that you've spent the money on the property, you've bought a property say for 100 grand and you're trying to say it's worth 300, where does that 200 grand increase come from? So they've got to justify it in a way where they're not just adding thousands of pounds into the valuation for nothing. You've got to demonstrate you've actually spent the money, not on furnishings but actually on the build.
Yeah, but I also noticed as well some valuers, I guess this is where the value is very important, the value who you go for, because some don't appreciate some. Let's say they can say next to you. So let's say you spend 100 grand on your refurb for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They might still think, well, great, you spent 100 grand, it looks amazing, but the house next door is in a fairly good condition, and they kind of still value up the same. Not necessarily because, do you know what I mean? It's not. It's a weird, like they seem to still consider what's within the area and what's a similar standard of finish to yours, and kind of work with that as well as a comparable, if that makes sense.
I suppose it depends where you are in the country. So, like, if you're based down in London, I've got some of my coaching.
Well, London's like a special case.
Just outside London, my coaching clients have got a couple of properties there, and we work obviously a lot based in the Midlands, a lot on commercial valuations, income generating assets from the houses.
Yeah.
Down in London, or just outside London, the houses are still based on the bricks and mortar valuation as opposed to the income of the business.
Commercial,
because
still worth more, a lot more.
Bricks and mortar still worth more. So then, I know when Cheung was starting off in the early days, he was taking hybrid mortgages, which was based on the commercial income as well as the bricks and mortar valuation.
Yeah.
I've only typically gone for the commercial income, but
same.
One of mine got valued on a commercial income, but given the exact same figure to bricks and mortar, I went, that doesn't stack. You can't argue with them because they're the ones who put the reports in.
Yeah,
so.
And usually as well, once they put it down in writing, it's very, very hard. Unless it's like a massive error, they missed half of the property, they didn't realise there's another roof or another roof space above them. Yeah.
Did you not get a basement down below?
Did you miss that one? No, it's next door.
Yeah, it's very hard to change. And in that case, actually, I think most people would have either stick to the number or find a new valuer. So again, spending more cost to go and get a new valuer to get a different opinion. And this is another thing, at least I feel like you're paying for an opinion. Because one valuer in the same branch as well could have a different opinion about the property to another one.
But then that could also add 60 grand onto it. So paying their grant to have a different opinion.
Yeah, different opinion.
Could add 60 grand onto it.
100%.
So sometimes you pay for what, I can remember buying a property up front. So coming out for the prop valuation to get the lending.
Yeah.
This guy said, I've not valued a HMO for a while. So he's very much used to doing bricks and mortar.
No, that's
and as soon as he
said,
like,
mate, have a nice day. I know this is going south.
As soon as he said that, I was like, what have they sent out to you? And then literally, I told him, I said, I've got a 6-bed, 8 occupants. He went, what do you mean 8 occupants? And I said,
yeah.
So
guys, I know this is a no-no.
I said, it's a good thing. I said, we've got 3 double rooms. And then he said, so you've only got 3 double rooms? I went, yes, I've got more occupants than there are rooms. But yeah, there's rooms that are only single rooms. I went, this is HMO. It's a good thing to have more occupants. So pretty much, in short, I got downvalued by 50 grand.
Yeah.
Because the guy didn't have a clue what he was doing.
This is You just know you're about to get back. Yeah. This is why it's very important as well. But it's a hard one. Some people say, "Oh, try and call the valuer," because ideally they're not supposed to speak to you.
They work for the bank.
They work for the bank. So if you can kind of approach them somehow without obviously them knowing you're about to approach the bank, then you can kind of get an understanding of how they value properties and make sure that aligns with you. And then if it does, obviously you know, okay, I'm going with this bank, they're going to ask this person in particular to go, and therefore you know thereabouts, as long as everything aligns.
You can have an understanding of how they do manage value properties. Number one rule in business, business is relationships. So if you can build up a relationship, then you start from there, you're after a winner. If
Actually, question, have you stuck with some valuers? Or have you changed?
No, I've stuck with the same value for the last year and a half.
My answer's the same, yes, stuck with the same value.
Yeah, same value.
When you find a good one, you stick to him.
Obviously, this leads on to the next question. My thing is, I'm now going national, so my value doesn't go national. So that's it's a learning game of building.
You got to find a new team again, yeah.
But the way we value the properties, the way we go through it is based on an income generator. So as long as we just approach them with the same principle of saying this is how we value it, do you think it's somewhat similar? Yeah. Obviously everybody's got their own unique way of valuing it, but as long as we're in the same sort of ballpoint, I'm happy. Yeah. So my very first project that I did I'm based in Derby, the first project I did up in Liverpool, I was working my numbers based on around 325.
Yeah.
And I actually got a 340, so he actually upvalued the property based on the standard of finish and the income. That's during the pandemic, so it shows that as long as you work on worst case scenario, you can come last man of roses sometimes. Yeah.
Cool. And then obviously the last question, not the least, so how do you, like you were saying, how do you manage different projects in multiple parts of the country now that you're expanding outside of Derby?
I'm not going to lie, it's a challenge. You've got to have certain teams in place all over the place. The big thing for me is having a project manager. Purely because I can't speak to different builders in all over the country if they've got different teams and everything like that. So I have a project manager for each area, should I say. So if I've got 2 projects in one area, I'll have one project manager for both those projects. Yeah. Same as I've got in Derby, I'll have one project manager for multiple projects. So it is always about relationships. So finding the decent project manager to be able to manage your build, having that trust and the relationship with that one project manager to then deliver on that project. They have to go away, get the build quotes, go deal with that. So it's on their neck at the end of the day. But it's sort of business is always relationships. It's like I say, it's all comes down to the very first question: is what do you do? What do you find it hard being full-time property investor? It's having fun as well as growing your businesses. And where does your focus lie? And how do you take yourself back out of it at the same time? So it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Actually, I just thought of one of my heads was a bonus question, guys. Do you want? It's an open question. Is there an end goal with this? Like, where do you see us? Like, what's your vision? I guess.
Mine's interesting because I want to go move abroad. I want to have the luxury home, a holiday home abroad, to be able to travel as and when.
Yeah.
Personal goal is to also take on my family, so they don't have to be stuck in the corporate sector, so they can have roles in the business and then get the income.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy property. So people always say to me, "Are you going to get 10 properties and then quit, or you're going to get 20 properties and quit, or you're going to get to a certain amount and quit?"
Yeah.
For me, I keep saying, I want a hotel, but I've got the hotel now, so it's not. What's the next level?
What's next?
So I kind of, the end goal just keeps moving. I want to go for the bigger things. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to work forever, but I enjoy it at the minute. So therefore, my end goal is just getting.
I think right now, I think you got the luxury of choice, I guess, to carry on, keep going, or.
I think now I'm at the point I'll always have the luxury of choice. So then the luxury of choice is when do I want to stop? Is when I decide when.
You can decide one day,
when the systems are in place, because you need to be able to step out for the business to continue to grow.
That's an important thing as well, guys. Building a portfolio is all great, but if it's not managed well, that portfolio can just run downhill very quickly. So it's having the systems in place to be able to, if you decide to not be in the business or be part of the business, it still kind of manages itself. Questions are still being answered. If tenants are having issues, blah blah, maintenance, all that stuff. If there's voids, getting it remarketed, get it back in the market again, get it rented. all these things. So there's a lot to consider.
What's your end goal?
My end goal is definitely. I think I'll always do property. I'll always be in property, but it's not something I want to give my 100% focus to. I do want to kind of move into like buying businesses. That's something I've aspired to do in terms of getting into that space. So property.
Do you think it'll ever be full-time leisure? This is the thing.
My answer. I know my answer. My answer is no.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm someone that I get bored very quickly. I don't care. I could be traveling the world. I'm going to get bored of traveling. Like there's only so many. There's a lot of countries. There's actually a amount of countries. 195 country guys. So if you went to every single country and what next, you could knock that out in 2 years if you wanted to.
But then you could visit multiple different places in those countries. So
it's just we get repetitive. I feel like I get bored very quickly. So yes, new scenery, new culture, new food, whatever. That's all great, but it would get very repetitive. I'm moving from one country to another, maybe not steady, and maybe now you want to settle, just sit down, do nothing for a while, and that'll get boring as well. You want to move into something else.
That's it. Like somebody keeps saying, what's your outcome? I was like, I just want to sit on the beach. I actually said I wanted to set up a local bar, like non-profit organisation where the locals can come to it. We can have a culture, we'll play like some chess, some pool ball, and stuff like that. And then, but why? And then sucking up a beer and just chill and do whatever. But then it's like, how long are you going to do that before you get bored? And I'm like,
trust me.
So
you get bored. Yeah.
I suppose the luxury of it's choice. So.
It's choice. I think that's what we're doing all this for choice. And then after that, it's kind of you can decide. Maybe this year I want to do business. Next year I want to take a year out. The year after I want to do business again. I'll take 2 years out.
What's your outcome, Cheung?
Yeah.
I think for me, I do enjoy running businesses. It's all about the team that you work with. Building their lives as well as their mortgage that you're paying for as well, and I think that feels like a family to me. I'm really family orientated. I love spending time with my own family. I want to build my own family as well. So it is just creating an income stream to do whatever I want, wherever I want, at whatever cost. Basically, that is my own goal. You could say I want to travel to so many countries, but I'd like to take each day and each week as it is, really. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next week, but
yeah, mate, things happen, man.
Like I said to Sam, every Friday I want to have a fun Friday. I want to go out like on the driving range. I want to do some golf and like swimming or diving lessons. Like it's until you expose yourself to like other things, you don't know.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
Like you could put me on like a volunteering trip for like picking up rubbish, and I probably would enjoy it, to be honest. And it's just. I'd love to like kind of teach. I want to spend the time with my kids. I think that's the main thing that I want to do. When I have a family, I've got loads of aspirations. I want to like take them around the world and like do things together. But before you can do that, I need to obviously build a team.
Set things up.
Like fully run everything sufficiently, and that's the reality, really. So it is build that base, a foundation. Like Richard Branson, you don't see him on the Virgin train.
The guy in the yacht somewhere on his island. Him and Lord Sugar. I think Lord Sugar probably spends most of the year on his yacht.
Exactly, yeah.
And he has his business calls, everything. Sometimes he comes in person, but majority of the time he's on his yacht.
Like, what I find is when I am in my kind of comfort zone, like I'm relaxed. That's where I'm most creative. I think of new ideas. I think of businesses.
Your mind's occupied, isn't it? So you can.
That's what keeps me occupied.
Yeah.
And, it's fun.
I think one of the like merging the two together. I keep trying to see opportunities coming. So I'm looking for the next thing, and I found like a plot of land with 106 acres. So merging business and pleasure. I'm like, oh, I can do both. I can build my own golf course now.
You see these guys.
This is like I'm thinking. So next level is like, oh, how do I go about implementing a new golf course? That'd be cool. Say, I own my own golf course and like.
Actually, you could say you own your own island with like your own resort on there, and that's your pleasure.
You guys take it to the next level.
That's pleasure. I'm just going to my island.
I think Ronaldo. He has the island, and when COVID happened, I think just gone on a boat.
Well, I took care of the lockdown.
Took his family onto this island.
Yeah.
Chilled.
You seen in Dubai where they do the golfing where they stand on the top of the tower skyscraper just hitting balls into the water.
I haven't seen. Okay.
But the balls that they're actually hitting are actually fish food. So they're actually just so they're actually feeding the fish. And I was like, that's quite cool. Quite cool.
When the world is yours, you can do anything, man. It's crazy. But anyways, I think guys, it's been a good one. I hope you guys have got value out of this as well. Feel free to get in contact with you guys. Just how quickly again.
Sam Elgie Property on Instagram or just Sam Elgie on Facebook.
For me, it's Shorty Property, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Alright guys, that's it. Thank you for joining us and take care. See you in the next one.